Now, before we move any further, we've got to talk about what's called the process improvement methodology, or the DMAIC lifecycle. It's basically the steps we can follow on every process improvement project. It's a repeatable method. It's kind of like the scientific method, but for Lean Six Sigma. Okay, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about the DMAIC lifecycle phases, some key tools by each phase, the problem-solving strategy, as well as roles and responsibilities on Lean Six Sigma projects. Okay, so let's first talk about the DMAIC lifecycle. So the DMAIC lifecycle is a methodology for solving process problems. It's a repeatable way to improve our processes, and it's broken out into 5 phases. It starts with define, then goes to measure, analyze, improve, and control. Okay, so let me break down each of those phases. So the define phase, we're defining the goals of the improvement. We're outlining what we hope to accomplish from the improvement effort. And then after we define the goals, we measure the current process as it is today. We need to know where we're starting from. And then we analyze the process for areas of improvement, finding ways to make it better. And then we improve the process, actually implement those changes, and control the new process over time to make sure the changes that we've made actually last for the long term. We want to control the new process. Now, most of the remainder of this course is actually broken out by those 5 phases. We talk about some of the tools we use in each of them. But before we get started on that, I thought it would be helpful here to introduce a few key tools by phase. Certainly this isn't all of them, but it's some key ones to kind of give you an idea of some of the things done in each of these phases. So in the define phase, remember we're defining the goals of the improvement, and we could use something called the voice of the customer to capture customer feedback to understand what they're hoping to achieve from the process. And then we can also use a business case. So if we've identified an improvement we want to go forward with, we want to communicate the costs and benefits of the improvement, because sometimes we need to use resources, organizational resources, to get the work done. And so we've got to get approval to do that. And basically a business case, again, outlines the costs and the benefits of the improvement. So it hopefully convinces our superiors to provide the resources necessary to get that improvement effort done. Okay, so this is some of the things we're going to do in the define phase, or we could do as we define the goals of the improvement. Okay, then in the measure phase, we're measuring the current process as it is today. We're trying to get a snapshot of where we are. We could use process maps that show the sequence of process steps to show what's happening in the process of potentially who's doing what. And then we might capture some basic statistics about the process. And then we might use something called measurement systems analysis. So as we measure the process, we want to make sure that the measurements that we're taking are accurate. And so MSA, or measurement systems analysis, makes sure we're getting accurate measurements. So again, we have this good snapshot of where we are today. And then in the analyze phase, we're going to analyze the process for areas of improvement. We could use regression, which helps us to predict our process output for any given input values. Okay, so regression is a tool to do that. We could also use something called multivariate analysis to look at multiple variables or inputs at once. And we could also use hypothesis testing, basically using stats to prove or disprove the effect of X's. Okay, so we're analyzing the process at this point. And then we're trying to improve the process, actually implement the improvements. And we could use designed experiments, conducting experiments to optimize our inputs. We could use 5S, a method for workplace organization. And we can also use Kanban, an inventory control method that addresses waste. And sometimes it's referred to as just-in-time, getting things just in time. And then finally, in control, some of the tools we could use here are statistical process control, basically monitoring the process over time to make sure it stays within certain boundaries. And then we could use control plans, outlining how to institutionalize the new process. So we often want to document the new process and the steps we're going to take to make sure it stays in control.